Welcome to Death on Clear Island, Chapter 23A. The Castle Bar police station was located in a new building that was adjacent to one of the oldest, the courthouse. It wasn't too many years ago that the people in the surrounding villages were making their own laws and dispensing their own justice. 3 policemen occupied the front reception area. One of them was seated behind a computer monitor. Looking up at me, he politely asked if he could help. A few minutes later, I was waiting in Thomas O'Shea's office with a cup of tea in my hand. O'Shea strutted into the room like a prize fighter who's just won his latest match. Keenan followed close on O'Shea's heels. O'Shea smiled and said, "Lorcan isn't with you?" "No, I'm minding myself today. You look rather pleased with yourself. Have you found Sharon's killer?" "I am pleased. The case is officially closed. In fact, we don't need to waste any more of your time. You're free to leave." "The case is closed?" I repeated, like a person in a trance. "Another drug overdose," O'Shea said. "These people take care of removing themselves eventually. But thanks for coming in." Then he stood and held the door open. "But wasn't Sharon strangled?" Leaving the door open, O'Shea sauntered over to his desk. His blue eyes shone cold and hard as he leaned toward me. "Miss O'Brien, you're a visitor in this country. I don't mean to offend you, but I want to make it clear that your ideas and information are not wanted. They don't hold any weight here. This case, both of the cases, are closed." "Closed?" I burrowed further into the chair, trying to understand his arrogance and total mishandling of these matters. Was he a crooked cop? Was it even possible he had something to do with Matthew and Sharon's untimely passing? "But she was choked to death. I heard there was a nylon around her neck. How much more evidence do you need?" "Like I said, Miss O'Brien, this is a Garda matter. It's not for the likes of you, a foreigner, to question or even know the facts of the case." He shuffled some papers on his desk to make it clear I was nothing but a trivial distraction at the moment. "I wasn't honest with you when we spoke," I continued. "I have information that may help identify Matthew's and probably Sharon's killer." O'Shea took a long, deep breath and shifted his jaw slowly from right to left. "Like I said, the case is closed. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have other work to do." He shuffled the papers some more. I shifted my weight in the chair. "Just like that? 2 people's lives and reputations are destroyed? Their families are shocked, filled with grief and disbelief? Are you so heartless that you won't even listen to what I have to tell you? You had that opportunity. You chose not to share it then. I choose not to hear it now." He gestured with his hand toward the door and the hallway beyond it. "Please, enjoy the rest of your stay in Ireland. I understand we're in for a spell of dry weather. Matthew and Sharon were murdered, and I'll prove it." I rose from the chair, held my head up as high as I could, and slammed his door behind me. After I had stomped through the reception area and back out to the sidewalk, a riot of colorful flowers on the green across the street caught my attention. A creative gardener had designed the flower beds to form the word Castle Bar. Vibrant greens, yellows, purples, and whites. They were so beautifully alive, and so was I, but not Sharon and Matthew. Guilt clamped down on me. A lump in my throat obstructed my breathing. I reminded myself again that Sharon might have been killed because of my persistent search for the truth. The colors of the vibrant flowers, the relentless heat, and my equally relentless guilt swarmed my senses. Then my stomach contracted painfully, and I heaved my breakfast onto the cement. Thankfully, no one was around to witness this. Breathing as deeply as I could, I eyed the flowers yet again. Like a dose of smelling salts, they reminded me that I had work to do. In control again, I headed for the car. It didn't take me long to get to French Hill and call Bridget. She agreed to let me see Matthew's house again. I picked up the key from her and then drove toward Westport. Cold, damp air enveloped me when I opened Matthew's door. The walls of a house always seem to know when they no longer surround living, breathing people. I didn't have any idea what to look for, only my gut told me I needed to search Matthew's place again. I began with the studio on the second floor. As I climbed the stairs, the cold air became frigid. My breath appeared before my eyes in puffs of steam. I buttoned my jacket, tugged a pair of gloves out of the pockets, and crammed my hands into them. Slivers of dim light cut through the shuttered windows. I walked over to open them and noted the pier below. The sharp chill in the room contrasted with the pleasant scene of families strolling along the paths, pausing to look at boats, and keeping their children from getting too close to the edges. Then my eyes locked on someone who seemed to be looking directly at the window where I stood. The dark stocking cap did nothing to hide the blonde hair. It was Lucia. What was she doing here? When she realized I'd seen her, she turned away, thrusting her hands into her jacket pockets, hurrying toward the street. I zoomed down the stairs and through the front door, but not before she vanished into thin air. I turned back to the apartment. A deep silence pervaded every room as if listening expectantly for what I might find. I went straight into Matthew's studio. The unfinished drawing that had made me uneasy last time still stood on the easel, but his other artwork was boxed and crated, waiting for his family to remove it and stored away in some dark corner of a room, attic, or basement. It struck me that his expressions of life wouldn't be revealed again until some other significant event, like another death, move, or the need to make room for someone's forgotten life. Matthew's art, like his soul, would essentially be buried for good, and his family would let go and continue with their lives. I wondered why they had left this one painting uncrated. Remembering how different it had appeared from his other work, I studied it again, sizing up the painting's dark and warm reds, oranges, and yellows. When I stepped forward to look at it in more detail, the picture's contents appeared to shift. So I stepped back and saw again the dark background of clouds and sky. I moved forward once more and noticed that the center and foreground clouds and sky were painted in lighter, cooler, almost luminous blues and white. Maybe Matthew had been doing more than experimenting with the new technique. Maybe he had left a clue. An article I'd read about Renaissance masters who had hidden things in their paintings came to mind. Did Matthew have similar intentions here? There were no faces evident in this particular work, at least none that I could see. I stepped to and fro in the dimming light, trying to discern what Matthew's message, if any, might have been. The colors in the middle of the picture were in perfect alignment, almost like a set of lanterns illuminating a path to the roiling, turbulent darkness above. I went back to my car to find some paper and pencil. When I returned, I used the paper to trace the outline of the painting and write notes about the colors. I also took a picture with my cell phone to refer to later on, if need be. When I went downstairs again, it was notably warmer. Dust motes swirled in the air, cobwebs draped in corners. A fly buzzed against one of the windows. The furniture was huddled in the middle of each room, stripped of all adornments and waiting to leave. At that moment, I was reminded of how hard it has always been for me to face changes in my personal life. Acceptance was the issue at hand, and my reluctance to accept what I cannot change spills all too often into my work life. Like an affectionate bulldog, I dig my teeth into something and work at it until I'm satisfied there's nothing left to do but let go. I wanted to do that for Matthew and Sharon, but as I stood in what was more like a tomb than a home, I realized there was nothing else to go, nowhere else to go with this investigation. Maybe my idea about a clue hidden in the painting might be possible, but it was pretty thin compared to the other facts that supported Matthew's guilt. I hated to admit it, but perhaps the police were correct in their conclusions.